Manager of Programming for the Houston Public Library. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Today is a special day for us. 1 year ago, we set forth on a mission to create a poetry series that the entire Houston community would look forward to coming out to hear on the first Saturday of every month. Of course, we had the highest hopes for the series, but you never do know when you set forth on a new endeavor. Well, I'm happy to report that this has become one of our most successful programs and even won Best Reading Series for the Houston Press 2011. I'd like to take a moment to say a few words of thanks. First of all, thanks so much to Mayor Margaret for being here with us today, just as she was 1 year ago at our inaugural event. It means the world to us. I'd like to thank our director, Dr. Rhea Brown Lawson, for her support and leadership in the creation of this program. Programming team. He's been a major part of the success of this program. Thank you. Thank you to Stephen Fox, who's been kind enough to be a guest speaker today, and he's going to tell us a little bit about this beautiful building in just a little while. And of course, we're so grateful for our partnership with Public Poetry, and you'll meet the founder of Public Poetry and the person behind this great series shortly. But, with no further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage the director of the Houston Public Library, Dr. Rhea Brown Lawson.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a lovely day, and we thank you for spending some of your Saturday here at the Houston Public Library in this magnificent, recently restored, beautiful, historic Julia Addison building. Isn't it wonderful? We invite you to take tours. You can take self-directed tours or sign up for group tours. And I'd like to recognize Ms. Sargent, the manager here at the Julia Addison building in the Houston Metropolitan Research Center. Won't you stand, Liz? Everyone can see you. And it is now my pleasure to bring to the podium my boss and someone who has been supportive of libraries even before she became mayor, and deeply supportive since she's been there. And I was delighted to find out how much of a bookwoman she is. And in addition to being a bookwoman, a poet. So it is my deep pleasure and honor to bring to the podium our mayor, Elise Harper.
Happy to be with you today and help get this series started off. Not only am I a fan of libraries and books and poetry. Actually, I'm so much a fan of books that I used to own a bookstore for 10 years. Great hobby. Not a great way to make a living, but a great hobby. When we did this last year, we didn't know what we were creating, but we hoped it would catch a spark. And those people who tracked us down in the bowels of the Central Library in a kind of pedestrian room upstairs, and are back this year in the Julia Addison, have to understand what a jewel this is and what a tremendous gift this restoration has been to the city of Houston. So today we not only get to celebrate poetry and poets, but we have the opportunity to enjoy this wonderful historic building here in downtown Houston. Last year I was invited to pick a favorite poem and start off the series. I did. I guess I surprised everybody after I got done by saying that it was one of mine. And I'm going to do that again. And this is called Sax. Sax with an A. I'm not sure everybody understands. Sax. In a resale shop, just browsing. Then that smell. Funny how a scent transports you at a level conscious thought can't touch. I played the saxophone, or tried, coaxed tortured bleats and blats and limping melodies. Practiced painfully. I held the instrument long after I jilted the muse. I flipped the clamshell case apart and stroked the gleaming curves and breathed the scent of corpse. Was it worth the time? Reading music was the only lasting gift. Until tonight, until that smell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Parker, for that beautiful reading, and thanks again for being with us. It means the world to us. As Dr. Lawson and Mayor Parker said, it's very special that we're hosting this program at the Julia Idison Building today because of the amazing renovation that just took place. And I want to bring up a very special guest to say a few words about the building. He is an architectural historian and a fellow of the Anchorage Foundation of Texas. He is an adjunct lecturer in architecture at Rice University and the University of Houston. He's the author of the Houston Architectural Guide and the Country Houses of John F. Staub. Please join me in welcoming Stephen Fox.
Thank you very much. The Julia Idison Building at the Houston Public Library was constructed in 1924-26. It is named for Julia Idison, who served for 42 years as the city's first librarian. The Julia Idison Building was designed by the Boston architect Ralph Adams Cram in association with William Ward Watkin of Houston, the first professor of architecture at Rice University. Cram and Watkin designed the Idison Building in the Spanish Renaissance style to pay tribute to the Spanish historical roots of modern Texas. In 1975, the city of Houston constructed what is now the Jesse H. Jones Central Library next door in order to relieve severely overcrowded conditions in the Idison Building. Between 1977 and 79, a comprehensive restoration of the Idison Building was carried out so that it could house the special collections of the Houston Public Library, especially the newly organized Houston Metropolitan Research Center, the central repository for material documenting Houston's history. Well, fast forward 27 years. Then Mayor Bill White recognized that the Idison Building needed rejuvenation. He appointed 3 superwomen, and Houston is a city of superwomen, Phoebe Tudor, Minette Basil, and Margaret Skidmore, to organize the nonprofit Idison Preservation Partners and raise more than $30 million to bring the Idison Building up to standards. This included adding a wing that Cram and Watkin had designed as part of their original plan, but which the city of Houston could not afford to build in the 1920s. This wing contains the Metropolitan Research Center. Dr. Rhea Brown Lawson, director of the Houston Public Library, and her staff worked with Idison Preservation Partners and Gensler Architects to program, plan, and build this new old wing, which opened in 2010, and was followed by the re-restoration of the existing Idison Building. This past fall, Mayor Elise Parker, former Mayor White, and Dr. Lawson triumphantly rededicated the Julia Idison Building, including its newly landscaped gardens. Because of the commitments of Mayor Parker and White to preserving what is best about Houston, and the diligence of Idison Preservation Partners, we get to enjoy the marvelous spaces of this landmark building as we hear from the 4 poets who will present at this afternoon's public poetry event. Thank you.
It is now my great pleasure to introduce our first featured poet, who is Janet Lowery. She is the author of a poetry collection based on women from Greek mythology, trafficking women. Her poetry has appeared in Poetry East, Greensboro Review, Concho River Review, as well as in several anthologies. She also teaches literature and creative writing at the University of St. Thomas. Please welcome Janet Lowery.
Thank you to Fran for organizing this event and the series, and to the mayor for being here, and everyone involved with the library for inviting us to this beautiful setting, and of course thanks to everyone for coming. I'm going to read the poem of mine from the anthology out from Mutabilis Press, Improbable Worlds, which I'm sure is probably on sale in the back there. The name of it is How Everything Stands in Place. At last, late at night, the house fills with silence. Outside my bedroom window, Stanford Street empties of cars, and my thoughts wander the corridors of stillness, running through the darkness, the way shafts of moonlight spill through cracks between each silk drape, then lance the floorboards with tiny darts of silvery awareness. In the half-dark, before the entire fiction of my body dispels its hold on consciousness, I count the measure of my pulsing heart, snug under my rib cage, then breathe deeply and inventory the day. My focus roams from scene to scene, the way my eyes stray from rafter beam to window frame, painted shelf to dressing table, beveled mirror, then on toward dreams, shadow threshold. Before my eyelids last flutter, I marvel how the things in my room, those dumb, beautiful ministers, as Whitman called all the objects inhabiting our world, how they stand in place before they abandon their hold on light and slip into the silent underworld of night.
Our next featured poet is Mike Alexander. Mike Alexander has 5 published chapbooks, the most recent being We, Internet, and Different Voices, which is available here, as well as through Excerpt Books. Other titles include Ampersand, References, January Y2K Blues, and Blinded by Absinthe. Mike served on the editorial boards of Lyric and Panhandler, and in 2008 he coordinated the chapbook contest for Panhandler. Long active in the poetry community, he also ran the weekly poetry open mic at Helios for 6 years. Please welcome Mike Alexander.
Picked out these poems for the season, obviously, the appropriateness. Autopsy, Good Friday. Victim is of indeterminate race, male, 33, simple homicide. No clear identifying marks aside from evidence of torture, face, back, abdomen. Another look betrays a lateral incision in the side, 6 centimeters deep and half as wide. The lab results will take a few more days, but judging by the trauma to both wrists and ankles, an orderly could guess the cause of death. The autopsy, as such, is done. Still, it will take a team of specialists to ascertain exactly who this was. A father, possibly somebody's son.
Our next featured poet is Claire Kagayama Ramakrishnan. She is the author of 2 books of poetry, Shadow Mountain, and most recently, Fair, Diamonds, and Crane. She has a PhD in literature and creative writing from the University of Houston and is now a professor of English at Houston Community College Central. Please help me welcome Claire Kagayama Ramakrishnan.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to thank Fran and the organizers of Public Poetry, and I also wanted to say that it's such a pleasure to meet with Anise, Janet, Mike, and Jeremiah, the fluent one. The first poem that I'd like to read actually comes from my second book, Bare Diamonds and Crane, and the title of the poem is the title work, Bare Diamonds and Crane. And I wanted to just preface and give you some information about the Japanese crane in Japanese culture. In Japanese culture, the crane is a symbol of longevity, fidelity, and prior to World War II, many Japanese children and adults would actually fold Japanese cranes if they had a specific wish that they wanted fulfilled. After World War II, beginning with Sadako Sasaki, who tried folding 1,000 cranes, she only folded 600, and her friends finished folding the 1,000 cranes for her, but she folded 1,000 cranes to have peace in this world, and ever since that time, the crane has been a symbol of peace. But I wanted to add one last thing. My grandmother's maiden name was Crane, and in Japanese, the word for crane is tsuru. Bare Diamonds and Crane. 1, Bear. In childhood, my nickname was Bear. My mother gave me an heirloom carving, a tall samurai sparring with a bear. 2, Diamonds. The first Japanese laborers dreamt of diamonds glittering with snow. 3, Crane. After Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Sadako Sasaki folded 1,000 cranes for world peace. Think of the women pressing cranes the night before my wedding. The crane who sacrificed feathers to weave beautiful cloth. The children here, out there, holding cranes instead of rifles.
Jeremiah Payne, the fluent one, is a graduate of Prairie View A&M University and has been writing and performing poetry since 2007. He's a member of the Houston VIP Slam team and a youth mentor with Metaphor Houston. Please welcome the fluent one.
With that, I'd like to share with you 2 poems for this rotation that were written for other people. The first one is a poem of inspiration, and the second one is one of tragedy. This is entitled Tears in the Breeze. There's beauty in confidence, strength in determination. Let peace subsume the quivering palpitations troubling your spirit. Awake to the love that surrounds you. Do not brush away the tear in your cheek. Revel in its travel. Marvel the wonder-compelling physical manifestation of emotion. Pain will come, but so will joy. Both born from the same esoteric root, embrace the touch of an angel, sent to set your shoulders straight. The burden you bear is not done alone. Align your back in defiance to defeat. When your day's pendulum has returned, the sun retreating to where it was born, sleep deeply without falter. Discover comfort in the silhouette of greatness that lies before you. A path that will be troubled but traversable. O angel of iridescent glory, you are born from love, and the worries of your heart are destined to pass.